Welcome to the video, which is the research unit packet, video number 3. So we are going to continue practicing what you did in class yesterday, which means we're going to continue filling out the research unit packet. By now you should have this packet out, which is the white packet, and also have out source number 2, which is the green packet. We can move down to page number 4. And what we do is each time we do a new source, we start the research process over again. So we'll do the same steps today with our new article that we did yesterday with our first article. So that means that the first thing we need to do is say that this is our source number 2. Yesterday was source 1, today it's source number 2. And before we even look at the source, we get the information that we would need to put into our Works Cited page. Again, this allows us to keep track of the source so that we can list it later and avoid plagiarism. So what I want you to do is look through the information that you're going to need for this box and see if you can find this information in source number 2. Please pause the video, fill out the box, and then push play once you have this filled in. Now, I have gone ahead and filled in all the information, and it was a little trickier than yesterday's article. One of the things that was a little trickier was this article had 4 authors. You can see them all listed towards the top of the article. So to deal with this, because you will need to name all 4, I took the first author that they mentioned and used the first 2 blanks. And then I went ahead and I just listed the other authors beneath so that I do still have their names when I need them. Because you do have to name all of the authors if you create a Works Cited page. The next step was the article title, which was easy to find towards the top, right here. And I followed the grammatical rules of capitalization. I capitalized the first word of the title, I capitalized the last word of the title, and then I capitalized all of the important words that were in the middle so that it is now correctly written. Double check your capitalization to make sure it matches. Now, the next blank was tricky. It asked about a web magazine, as in which magazine was this article first shared? However, when I looked here, they do not mention the name of any online magazines, which means this was not originally published through a magazine. So I had to write none next to that one. Next, it asked for the publisher. This is the company that made it available to us. And again, it's not always obvious which one's the publisher. This one was written at the top, EdSource. EdSource is a publishing group that put out these articles about education. So that is what I put as my publisher. Then we needed our date of publication, which is when they published it, putting the date, month, and year. Those I was able to find next to our author's name. The medium of publication, because it was from the internet, I put it as web. And the date of access, that's the day that we read the article, and we read it today. So once again, putting it with date, month, year. Today is 10 March 2021. Now the final step was to fill in the parenthetical citation. And as I mentioned yesterday, parenthetical citation is simply the first word you wrote down in this entire box. And since the first word we wrote down was this author's last name, that is the word that goes here. See, it's just the first thing you wrote. Now, if your box does not match mine, I need you to pause at this point, and I need you to correct those mistakes so that your packet does match mine. Once you have this information copied over, you can continue with the process. Now, a reminder from yesterday, we tend to take two kinds of notes. We have our facts. These are pieces of information that can be proven, and we write these in our own words when we put them in our notes. And then we also search for opinions. These we turn into quotation notes because we are going to copy them word for word and put them in quotation marks when we put them into our notes. Again, this is so that we don't accidentally change a person's opinion when rewriting it. All right, so you need to now read source number 2, and you need to look for information that's going to answer the research question. Our research question remains the same. So here I am on page 5 now in the white packet. My research question is still, has distance learning been an effective way of learning during COVID-19 pandemic? So we're going to continue looking for facts and opinions if distance learning has been good or not. So you are going to read source number 2. If you see anything that answers our research question, you're either going to highlight it or underline it, and then we'll work on turning that information into notes. All right, hopefully you took the time to read the article and find facts or opinions that suggest if distance learning is good or bad, and you marked them in your article so that we can turn them into notes in our packet. Now, if you were like me, you found lots and lots of facts and opinions that can help us with our research question. And if we were actually writing a research paper, we would probably keep track of all of them. Since we are not writing the paper and we're kind of taking a shortcut, we're only going to use 4 pieces of information from our article. So we will simply stop after we have our 4, just so that we can continue the process. So sometimes when you're working with different sources, you might get a couple of notes out of a source, and sometimes you find a really good source that gives you a lot of notes. Sometimes you don't get any good information from a source because it just doesn't connect to your research question. So be prepared to look in different sources and find different amounts of information as you follow the research process. I'm going to go to our source number 2, and I'm going to scroll through and show you what I highlighted. So looks like they interviewed a lot of high school students to see what they thought of distance learning, and they really told you if they did or did not like it. So I highlighted some of the notes that I think really supported our question in suggesting if distance learning was good or bad. And I noticed on page, let me double check the page number because we will need that for our notes. On page 2 of the article, I saw a good piece of information written by Nayeli Mercado. She said, I used to complain about school a lot, but I kind of miss it now. I miss my friends, teachers, attending class. I miss school in general. So here's someone who doesn't like distance learning because they're missing the things that you can get at school. Now, she is sharing her opinion, and it's an opinion because not everybody is going to agree with her statement. There will be other people who did not miss school, who did not miss attending class. So if I'm going to put this information into my notes, it's going to be used as an opinion. And opinions get turned into quotation notes. Remember, if it's an opinion, we don't want to put it in our own words because we don't want to accidentally change their meaning. So we quote our opinions. This one came from page 2 of our article. And then what I need to do is I need to copy this exactly into my notes. And I'm going to want to also add who said it, just so that I can give this person credit for their words. All right, so here I have taken the opinion I found in source number 2, and I have copied it word for word into my notes. Again, I only copy word for word if it was an opinion. Once I was done copying it word for word, I put quotation marks around it because that shows that I did not steal these words. These are somebody else's words that I am borrowing. And I put who said those words just to give that person credit. Again, we want to avoid plagiarism, and that means telling where we got our information from and often who said it. So I've got room for 3 more pieces of information. I'm going to go back into source number 2, and I'm going to keep scrolling to the parts I highlighted. And here we go on page 4. On page 4, I saw another piece of information that's going to help answer my research question. This student, Veronica Contreras, said, what I miss is the support that school actually gives. And then there was another statement I thought that was very valuable. I personally feel that I am not learning in these Zoom classes. So their school used Zoom, probably much like ours did Google Meets. And this student said they did not think it helped with their learning. So looking at this information, this is an opinion, as in this is somebody's personal belief. And it's an opinion because other people might think differently and have different perspectives. So when I put this information into my notes, I need to follow the same process that I did with the previous note. I'm going to need to copy it word for word from the article. Let's first say that this is going to be a quotation note because it's an opinion. This one was found on page 4. And now I'm going to copy and paste it into the box. All right, I have finished putting my note in. And because my information came from kind of 2 separate spots, I did put it in as 2 separate quotes, each of them word for word. And each time I put quotation marks around them to let you know that this is somebody else's words. And then I named that person. Again, this is to avoid plagiarism. At this time, you are ready to move on to video number 4.